I missed my train by seconds, literally watched it pull away from the platform while I was still running toward it. I was furious. At myself, at the world, at the 3 seconds that made the difference between being on time and being late. I stood there breathing hard, checking my watch obsessively, already composing the apology text to my boss. Then a woman, sitting on the bench, looked up from her book and said quietly, "Maybe you weren't supposed to be on that train." I was about to snap at her when something in her calm voice stopped me. We talked while waiting for the next one. 25 minutes that changed everything. Because she said one sentence that made me understand why I'd been running my entire life. Before we dive in, have you ever had a stranger tell you exactly what you needed to hear? Drop your answer in the comments below. And if you love stories about unexpected wisdom, learning to slow down, and the conversations that change us, please subscribe so you don't miss our next one. Now, let me take you back to the morning I learned that sometimes missing something is exactly what you need. I was always running, not metaphorically, literally running. Through subway stations, down sidewalks, up office building stairs, I ran through my life like it was a race I was perpetually losing. I was a senior consultant at a management consulting firm, the kind of job with impressive business cards and 70-hour work weeks. Client meetings, presentations, strategy documents, endless deadlines. I'd been there for 9 years, climbing steadily, earning well, and feeling increasingly like a hamster on a wheel that only spun faster. This particular Tuesday morning started like most mornings, badly. My alarm went off at 6:15 a.m. I'd gone to bed at 2 a.m. after finishing a client presentation that was due that morning. I hit snooze, then hit it again. By the time I actually dragged myself out of bed, it was 7:20. And I had exactly 40 minutes to shower, dress, and get to the office for an 8 a.m. meeting with a major client. I skipped breakfast, I threw on a suit, I grabbed my laptop bag and phone, and practically sprinted out of my apartment. The train station was 6 blocks away. I ran the entire distance, weaving through slower pedestrians, my leather bag banging against my side, my dress shoes not designed for sprinting on concrete. I reached the platform at exactly 7:48, just in time to see my train, the 7:47 that would get me downtown by 7:58, giving me exactly 2 minutes to make it upstairs to the conference room, pulling away from the station. I watched through the windows as it accelerated, taking with it my chance of being on time. The last car disappeared into the tunnel, and I stood there on the empty platform, breathing hard, sweat on my forehead despite the cool morning. "Damn it," I said out loud, not caring who heard. I kicked the metal bench, which hurt my foot and accomplished nothing. I checked my phone obsessively. Next train, 8:13. I'd be at least 20 minutes late. For a meeting I'd spent weeks preparing for, with a client worth millions in revenue. I pulled out my phone and texted my boss. "Train delay, will be 20 minutes late. Starting without me if needed. So sorry." The lie came automatically. It wasn't a train delay. It was my delay. My inability to wake up on time, to manage my schedule, to get my life together enough to catch a train. I was furious. At myself, mostly, but also at life for those 3 seconds. If I'd run a little faster, if I'd caught one more green light, if I'd woken up 30 seconds earlier, I'd be on that train right now instead of stuck here. I paced the platform, checking my watch every 15 seconds as if that would make time move faster. There were only a handful of other people waiting. This wasn't rush hour anymore. Just the stragglers who, like me, had missed the main commute. One of them was a woman sitting on a bench. She was maybe in her early 40s, dressed casually in jeans and a sweater, with dark hair pulled back and an unhurried quality about her that seemed foreign to me. She was reading a paperback book, completely unbothered by the wait. She looked up from her book and spoke. "Maybe you weren't supposed to be on that train." I turned to her, my frustration finding a target. "What?" She smiled gently, no judgment in her expression.
The train you just missed. Maybe you weren't supposed to be on it. I was absolutely supposed to be on it. I have a meeting at 8 that I'm now going to be late for. Or maybe you were supposed to miss it, for some reason you don't understand yet. I stared at her, not sure if she was being philosophical or just weird. I don't believe in things happening for reasons. I missed the train because I overslept and didn't run fast enough. That's it. She closed her book, marking her place with her finger. You always run like that? Run? You came sprinting onto this platform like your life depended on it. I'm guessing you run everywhere. Probably run through your whole life. The observation was so accurate, it felt invasive. I have a lot of responsibilities. Or you keep yourself so busy running that you never have to stop and ask where you're running to. The words hit me like a physical blow. I opened my mouth to argue, to defend myself, but nothing came out. Because somewhere deep down I knew she was right. I sat down on the bench, suddenly too tired to keep pacing. You don't know me. You're right, I don't. I'm Janine. She extended her hand. I shook it automatically. Cameron. Nice to meet you, Cameron. And you're right, I don't know you. But I recognize someone who's running from something. I did it for years. Despite my irritation, I was curious. Running from what? From myself, from questions I didn't want to answer. I kept myself so busy, work, gym, social obligations, volunteer commitments, anything and everything, that I never had to sit alone with my own thoughts. What changed? Janine looked down at her book, then back at me. I lost my job. The company went under. Suddenly all that urgency, all that busyness disappeared overnight, and I was left with silence. And I realized I had no idea who I was without the running. I checked my phone again. 15 minutes until the next train. I should have been composing emails, preparing excuses, managing the damage from being late. Instead, I found myself asking, what did you do? I stopped. Really stopped. I was lucky enough to have some savings, so I took 6 months off before finding new work. Sat with the discomfort of not being busy. Started asking myself the questions I've been avoiding. Like what? Like why I needed to be busy every second of every day. Like what I was actually running from. Like whether I was building a life I wanted or just a life that looked good from the outside. I thought about my own life. The apartment that I was rarely in, the gym membership I never used, the friends I kept meaning to call but never found time for, the women I dated, or tried to date, who all seemed to disappear after 1 or 2 outings because I was always canceling plans or showing up distracted, checking my phone, mentally still at work.
The last woman I'd gone out with, Margot, a veterinarian I'd met at a friend's party, had said something after our second date that had stuck with me. We'd been at dinner, and I'd checked my email 3 times during the meal. Cameron, she'd said gently, you're here, but you're not present. You're physically sitting across from me, but your mind is somewhere else. And I don't think it's just tonight. I think it's always. I'd apologized, put my phone away, tried to focus. But she hadn't agreed to a third date. That I couldn't really blame her. It was a pattern. First dates were easy. I could be charming for 2 hours, ask the right questions, seem interested. Second dates were where it fell apart. By then, the work emails would start feeling urgent again. I'd be distracted, checking my phone, cutting the evening short because I had an early meeting. Not to mention the conversation topics, which I didn't seem to know how to talk about anything that didn't involve work anymore. No one ever made it to a third date with me because I couldn't stop running long enough to actually be present. Where are you running to today? Janine asked, pulling me back to the present. Meeting. Important client. Presentation I'd been working on for weeks. And tomorrow? Different meeting. Another presentation. Strategy documents due. And next week? More of the same. And when does it end? When do you get to the finish line? I didn't have an answer, because there was no finish line. There was always another client, another project, another deadline. It was running without destination, just perpetual motion. When was the last time you did something without a deadline? Janine asked, without a productive purpose, just because you wanted to. I tried to think. I don't know. Do you have hobbies? Things you do just for enjoyment? I used to play guitar, but I haven't picked it up in probably 3 years. Why not? No time. Or you don't make time. Because if you stopped running long enough to play guitar, you might have to ask yourself why you need to run in the first place. I looked at this stranger who was somehow seeing right through me. Why are you telling me this? Because that's what I needed someone to do for me. 5 years ago, when I was running myself into the ground, when I had just lost my job and was desperate to find another, a stranger at a coffee shop asked me why I looked so exhausted, and I started crying, just broke down in front of this complete stranger and told him I didn't know how to stop. He said something that changed my life. What? He said, people don't run toward things, they run away from them. And eventually you run so fast and so far that you forget what you're running from, but it's still there, waiting for you to stop. The words settled over me like a weight. What am I running from? That's your question to answer, but I'm guessing if you stopped long enough to listen, you'd know. I did know. I'd known for years, but had been too busy to acknowledge it. I was running from the question of whether I was happy. Not professionally successful, I was clearly that, and I liked to do my job. Not financially stable, my bank account proved it, but genuinely, deeply happy with the life I'd built. And the honest answer, if I stopped running long enough to face it, was no. I checked my phone. 3 minutes until the train. Your train's almost here, Janine said. You can get on it and go back to running, or you can miss this one too and sit here a little longer. Why would I do that? Because sometimes the best thing we can do is stop, even when it feels wrong, even when we have meetings and obligations and people expecting us. Sometimes we need to just stop.
Is that what you're doing here? Just stopping? I'm coming back from a meditation retreat. I do it once a year, a full week of silence, just sitting with my thoughts, remembering who I am underneath all the doing. And that makes you happy? Janine smiled. Happiness isn't a destination, Cameron. It's not something you achieve by running faster or working harder or checking off more boxes. It's a byproduct of living honestly. And you can't live honestly if you're always running too fast to look at your own life. The train approached the platform, its headlights visible in the tunnel. I stood up automatically, my body trained to move, to catch the train, to keep running. But something made me hesitate. What if I can't stop? I asked Janine. What if I don't know how? You start small. You miss a train. You cancel a meeting. You stop working at the right time. You take an hour in the evening, then a whole weekend, then a holiday week you've been postponing. You sit with the discomfort of not running, and you ask yourself the question you've been avoiding. The train pulled into the station, doors opening with a mechanical hiss. People got off, others prepared to board. I could get on. I could text my boss that I was on my way. I could show up 20 minutes late, apologize profusely, do my presentation, and go back to the life I had been living. The running would continue. Or I could stay. I stayed. The doors closed. The train pulled away. I sat back down on the bench next to Janine. Okay, you've convinced me. What do I do now? The scariest thing possible. You stop. You cancel the meeting. You take the day off. You sit with your thoughts and you ask yourself the question you've been running from. I pulled out my phone and stared at it for a long moment. Then I called my boss. Cameron, where are you? I'm not coming in today. I'm taking a personal day. Silence on the other line. I'd never taken an unplanned day off. Never called in sick unless I was genuinely incapacitated. My boss didn't even know how to respond. Is everything okay? I don't know, but I need to find out. What about the client meeting? Have Catherine present. She knows the material as well as I do. I'll take responsibility for missing it. Cameron, this is really unlike you. I know. I'm sorry. I'll explain later, but I need today. I hung up before he could argue. My hands were shaking. I'd just abandoned a major client meeting. I'd just voluntarily blown a deadline. Everything in my training, my work ethic, my identity as a reliable professional was screaming that I'd made a terrible mistake. But underneath the panic was something else. Relief. That took courage, Janine said. Or stupidity. I might have just tanked my career. Or you just saved your life. Time will tell. We sat in silence for a few minutes. Another train came and went. Janine didn't get on it either. Don't you need to get somewhere? I asked. Eventually, but right now I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. How do you know? When you stop running, you realize that wherever you are is where you are. And that's enough. We talked for another hour on that platform about work and purpose and the lies we tell ourselves about success, about relationships and presence and why it's so hard to just be still. I haven't made it past a second date in 2 years, I told her at one point. Every woman I go out with eventually realizes I'm not really there, that I'm always half-focused on work, always checking my phone, always ready to cut things short for some urgent email. The last woman I dated told me I was physically present, but mentally absent. And she was right.
What would have to change for you to be present? I'd have to stop doing what I do now. I'd have to believe that being with someone was more important than whatever work crisis I was avoiding. I'd have to trust that the world wouldn't fall apart if I wasn't constantly managing everything. And do you believe those things? No, but I want to. That's a start. Eventually, Janine did catch a train home. Before she left, she wrote her email on a piece of paper and handed it to me. If you ever need to talk to someone who understands what it's like to stop running, reach out. Or don't. But either way, Cameron, be honest with yourself about what you find when you stop. On the back of the paper, where Janine had written her email, there was also another message. If you could design your ideal life, what would it look like? Start there. And I did. I spent the rest of that day doing something I hadn't done in years. Nothing productive. I walked through the city with no destination. I sat in a park and watched people. I went to a bookstore and browsed without buying anything. I had lunch at a restaurant and didn't check my phone once. And I thought, really thought, about my life, about what I'd built, about whether any of it was actually what I wanted or just what I'd convinced myself I should want. The question Janine had helped me articulate kept echoing. Are you happy? The honest answer was devastating. No, I wasn't happy. I was successful, financially comfortable, professionally respected, but I was profoundly unhappy. I'd built a life that looked good from the outside, the job, the apartment, the salary, the resume, but from the inside it was hollow. I had no real relationships, no hobbies, No sense of purpose beyond the next deadline. I was running on a treadmill, perpetually in motion, but going nowhere. That evening I went home and pulled out my guitar. It was dusty, strings slightly out of tune. I spent an hour just tuning it, relearning how to hold it, remembering the few chords I used to know. It felt good. Not productive, not deadline-driven, not advancing any career goal. Just good. It took days to actually figure out how I wanted my life to be, but I finally realized I didn't want to leave my job. I liked working there. I just needed to pull back a little, stop overloading myself, start connecting more, grounding more, being more present, and understanding what really matters. Over the next few weeks, I started making changes, small ones at first. Leaving work by 7 p.m. instead of 9 or 10, actually using my lunch break instead of eating at my desk, saying no to projects that would require 80-hour weeks. My boss noticed, "Cameron, is everything okay? You've been different lately." I'm trying to be more sustainable. Working until burnout isn't actually productive. Fair enough. Just let me know if there's anything going on. I reconnected with my sister, who I'd been neglecting for months. We had dinner, and she looked at me with surprise. "You're actually here." Like, present. Usually when we have dinner, you're checking your phone every 5 minutes. I'm trying to be better about that. What changed? I missed a train and met someone who asked me why I was always running.
3 months after that morning on the platform, I went on a first date with a woman named Vicky. She was a teacher, calm and thoughtful, with a dry sense of humor that made me laugh genuinely for the first time in weeks. Our first date went well. She agreed to a second. On our second date, I put my phone on silent and left it in my pocket. I was present. I listened when she talked. I shared actual thoughts and feelings, not just polished anecdotes designed to impress. She agreed to a third date. That third date was a milestone I'd thought I'd never reach, not because I wasn't interesting or because women didn't like me, but because I'd never been able to stop running long enough to actually build something. But with Vicky, I stopped. I was there, present. 6 months after missing that train, I took another personal day, a programmed one. Not because of a crisis, but because I wanted to. I went back to that same train platform, the place where everything had changed. I didn't see Janine there. I hadn't expected to. But I left a note on the community board, the kind where people post advertisements and announcements. To the woman who taught me to miss the train, thank you for showing me that sometimes stopping is braver than running. I'm not running anymore. C. That evening, I had a fourth date with Vicky. We cooked dinner at her apartment, talked for hours, and I didn't once think about work emails or tomorrow's meetings or anything beyond being exactly where I was. "You seem different," Vicky said at one point. "More settled, less like you're about to sprint out the door." I used to run everywhere, literally and figuratively. Someone taught me to stop. It took some time to get used to it, but I'm getting better every day. I'm glad you are. Me too. I still work in consulting. I still have deadlines and client meetings and presentations, but I'm not putting all my living energy and time on it anymore. Not in the way I was. I work reasonable hours, I take lunch breaks, I play guitar twice a week, I see my sister regularly. Vicky and I have been together for 4 months, and I haven't missed a single date or shown up distracted. My career hasn't suffered. If anything, I'm better at my job because I'm not constantly exhausted. But more importantly, I have a life outside of work. A real life. With relationships and hobbies and moments of genuine presence. I missed a train by 3 seconds on a random Tuesday morning, and it changed everything. because I'd had the courage to stop and think about the life I wanted to live, and I started choosing this life every day. I carry Janine's email address in my wallet, though I've never used it. I think about her sometimes, wonder if she's still taking her annual meditation retreats, still helping strangers on train platforms understand that sometimes the train you miss is the one that saves you. I'll probably never see her again, but her words stay with me every day. People don't run toward things, they run away from them. And eventually you run so fast and so far that you forget what you're running from. I'm walking through life now. Sometimes I'm standing still. And I've discovered that the view is much better when you're not sprinting past it. Sometimes missing something by seconds is the best thing that can happen to you. Sometimes being late is exactly on time. I missed my train, and I found my life. Have you ever had a stranger tell you exactly what you needed to hear? Share your story in the comments below. If this story about learning to slow down, finding presence, and discovering that sometimes the thing you miss is exactly what you needed touched your heart, please hit that like button and subscribe for more meaningful stories every day. Don't forget to click the notification bell so you never miss our next inspiring tale. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.